Welcome to Anime Out of Context, a comedy review show hosted by a basement dweller who grew up scrounging terrible fan subs on sketchy websites prior to the convenience of modern streaming, alongside a willfully ignorant soul whose only knowledge of anime comes from the shows forced upon him here. This show will contain spoilers, incorrect information, and copious amounts of adult language. Our hosts are not experts on any topic, and everything they say should be taken with a grain of salt. Thank you for listening, and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to Anime Out of Context, the show where I attempt to explain the sometimes weird, sometimes wonderful, but always hilarious world of anime.
And I'm living rent-free inside of your head, but it's a little bit cramped because I'm just stuck inside the hypothalamus, and it's not very roomy in there, so.
Yeah. I'm Shaun Rollins.
I'm Remington Chase.
Happy Thanksgiving, Remington.
Happy Thanksgiving to all, and to all a good thank.
And to all a good thing. Wonderful.
Are you going to celebrate in your traditional fashion, Shaun?
Pray tell, what do you think my traditional fashion is, Remington?
Well, I mean, for Thanksgiving, you tend to do the old thankin yank, so I
Who am I thanking and who am I yanking, Rem?
Well, I mean, I assume you choose, but look, you would know more about your traditions than I.
Oh, I see. Because this is clearly one of my traditions that I do on the regular for Thanksgiving.
Well, yeah.
You know, some people have turkey, some people have stuffing.
Well, I mean, you can also do those things. I didn't think it was like instead of. I always assumed it was in addition to.
They're not mutually exclusive, essentially.
Probably not. Once again, it's your traditions, homie.
Oh, God. Well, Remington, no. We're not here to talk about my theoretical, very lonely traditions.
It doesn't need to be lonely.
I think
you can
thank
thank and yank with the boys.
A circle thank and yank, if you will.
Yeah.
Gratitude and splatitudes, if you will.
If anything, that's the best way to do it.
As a collective.
Yeah.
Oh, Christ almighty. This was going to be a wholesome episode, but now it's
Are
not.
you implying that the thank and yank is not wholesome?
I mean, holes can be involved, I suppose, but, like, as a general rule, it's not something you usually talk to your grandma
Lots
about,
of people are doing the yank without any of the thing.
So remember, folks, always be thankful when you're yanking.
Exactly.
And you can be thankful to us at patreon.com/anime-out-of-context.
The man, how does the man do it? It's how does the man make it just so smooth of a transition?
It's a subtle. You got to be subtle with your self promotions. You know, your ad reads.
Oh,
That's why doing them in the first 5 minutes of the podcast doesn't get anybody, uncomfortable or perturbed. You got to loosen them up with talk of thanks and yanks.
I see.
But no, Remington, it's Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving is a bit of a tricky thing for us on the podcast because we release to the public on Saturday, right?
Yep.
But generally speaking, on our Patreon, we release on Thursdays, a couple days early, or whenever Dylan, gets a spur of editing in his brain and he just decides to do things out of order. But generally speaking, Thursdays are usually when patrons can expect the episodes to drop. So in a way, we are kind of doing this on Thanksgiving.
Hell yeah.
And because we're doing this on Thanksgiving, I promised last week when we did our, very heavily requested fart anime episode, that this week we would be doing something highly requested and much larger in scale than what we've done in recent times due to our super busy schedules.
So are we thanking our audience? Are you thanking me? Am I thanking you? Who's thanking who? And who's yanking who?
Hey. Well, I'm not going to answer who's yanking, Remington, because I feel like that's best to be a surprise in this situation. A surprise yank, if you will. But the people that we're thanking this time around is a little bit you, Remington. There is a little bit of thanks towards you. But it's primarily being thankful to all the lovely people who have supported us all this time and all these years, right? And to show that we're thankful, I've decided to do a show that, quite frankly, I had been avoiding.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And not because I think it's a bad show. Quite the opposite, in fact. I think it's a very solid show.
But I'll hate it, and so all the people are gonna kill us.
No. Well, I mean, Rem, knowing you have the potential to hate just about any show we talk about. So that could still happen, but honestly, if that does happen, I'm not going to be upset. It's all the other people that are going to be upset.
Can't wait.
No. The reason I've hesitated to do this show is twofold, right? The first reason is because I have a complex history with it.
Oh?
Yeah. Let's just say that junior high and early high school, Shaun had a lot of experience with it, and man, did they not help with the whole, socially acceptable thing, And it'll make sense once you hear what it is. And the second reason is because it's not technically anime.
Oh, you dirty dog, Shaun.
Yeah. Look, man, I don't make the rules. I mean, I do, but I don't. Anime is in the title of the podcast, folks. That's what I'm trying to say. But this thing is so very anime in production value and styling that it basically counts. And since it came out, we've gotten non-stop requests to cover it. And I figured now would be finally the time, and I should just get over my internal biases towards it.
I have no idea what the fuck to expect.
Yeah, well, Remington, I've got a question for you. How salty you feeling?
I guess I would say the average amount, so quite a bit.
From all the confusion that I've laid at your feet so early in this episode?
Yeah.
Well, Remington, no need to be so nervous about it, because, Remington, the show we're talking about today was the source, and still is the source, of high quality, quantities even, of salt production in the world, and may or may not have sparked lots of angry moments in my childhood. Because, Remington, today we're going to be talking about League of Legends.
What the fuck? Hey, wait a minute!
And watching the incredibly popular Netflix original series, Arcane.
Alright, okay, so I know nothing about League of Legends. I've heard
good
good things about Arcane, and a lot of people have told me to watch it, and I was like, it'll happen on the podcast eventually, so I can't. But also, what I didn't tell them was, miss me with that shit.
Hey, dog, same.
Because it's like, you're like, hey, let's combine, because as you say, it's like, it's not anime, but it has the fandom. Like, it has, all the anime weebs are really into it. And so you take the weebs, and you take the hardcore gamers that play League of all things, and so are inherently toxic. Yeah. And you're like,
hardcore MOBA gamers of all
God.
things.
And you're like, let's bring them together. And I'm like,
those are two. That is a volatile combination that you don't want to mess with usually.
Yeah.
And back in the day, I was never super into League, right? I mostly only ever played it because I had friends that played it and wanted to play with me, and I was like, I need social interaction and time to play.
Nah, you were an Overwatch slut.
But that came out after we had graduated.
Well, and before that, Team Fortress. You like the good old 5v5 bullshit things.
Yeah. I like strategic FPSs, essentially.
There are two genders.
There are two genders.
One is MOBA, the other one is 5v5 FPS.
Yeah. It was much better when it was 6v6, though. It's got to be said. Look, I'm not saying that Blizzard killed Overwatch, but Blizzard definitely killed Overwatch and all of their reputation. But we're not here to talk about Blizzard. We're here to talk about Riot and League of Legends. I played a decent amount of League of Legends, but I was never great at it, and that only fed into the anger and frustration. Because League of Legends, for all the hate I give it, is a incredibly complicated game. Because there's management of buying your upgrades per round, there are the different positions, there are...
Is League the one with diamond cars?
I don't... Maybe? I think so. I can't remember, dude. I genuinely cannot remember. My research for this was watching the show and reading up on it a bit. I wasn't going to reinstall League to make sure I was up to date on the gameplay aspects of it. I think that sounds right, because I distinctly remember lots of crystals in League, because Dota was definitely a lot more, grungy, if I recall correctly.
Okay, cool. I'll be honest. You could show me any number of images from League and Dota, and yep. I think I I think it'd be 50% chance of how accurate I am on which one is which. Because in my mind, they are the exact same.
Yeah, they are very similar. But in my defiance of League, I played more Dota, you know?
Oh, okay, I see.
Mostly because Total Biscuit back in the day had a Dota series, and that made me want to play it, but I only ever played by myself because nobody would play Dota with me. Look, MOBAs are complicated, man, and there's a reason I don't really play them anymore. Aside from the fact that I was horrible at them. And, yeah, League of Legends...
Well, I guess my thing is, like, I've never...
How do you get a story out of this?
No, I've never heard of anybody having fun playing
a
MOBA.
Yeah.
There, like, any story or any instance that I've seen, they're angry, salty, and bitter, and they're just not having a good time. And so I'm like, why do this to yourself?
Exactly. But as somebody who has played quite a few MOBAs in his time, I understand where it comes from, because...
The illusion of dopamine.
Exactly, because you get that dopamine hit once you land a kill or you win your first game, and once you get that first, like, strong dose of dopamine, you're just chasing that high, man. You're chasing that high. And they're unfortunately the type of games that attract people who have a hard time self-reflecting, so they're always angry primarily at their teammates first and then themselves last, you know?
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the toxicity in the community comes from. And you can say that about any multiplayer game, but it especially came out in MOBAs because of the complexities. Like, people would be blamed and insulted for buying one item at a slightly wrong time and blaming that for the entire loss of the game, rather than, you know, anything they could have done differently on their end, faults of their own or whatever. And it's an unfortunate side of, you know, the gaming industry that still persists to this day, but thank God I am not in that scene anymore. But we're not really here to talk about the game, because weirdly, Rem, the game doesn't matter so much to the show. I mean, don't get me wrong, all the characters in the show are from the games, like the setting is correct from the games.
Is League like something with actual meaningful lore, or is it like the illusion of lore, where it'll like vaguely gesture at something and then say, don't worry about it?
Yes and no, I would say.
All right, cool.
There's lots of like separate lore out there, and like every time a new character comes out, there's, you know, biographies and how they are related to other characters and things of that nature. And like there's lots of lore implications out there, but Arcane is like the first like major standalone thing that even if you're not a League of Legends fan, you can jump into it and not be lost or confused by it, you know?
I get confused by a lot of things, Shaun.
This is true, but I even you, Remington, even you can follow the plot lines of Arcane.
Impressive.
Without ever having to have touched League of Legends. And it's the story primarily of two sister characters, and some of the surrounding people, and the cities that they grew up in and live in. And it's pretty straightforward from there, because that's all the show is about. It's about this kind of dystopian dual city situation. Piltover and Zaun, I believe, are the name of the cities. One is very much like where all the rich, highbrow, utopian type people live, and the other is the more underground, slummish area where a lot of undesirables are kept, you know, away from, you know, the more self-respecting people. And of course, there's a lot of civil unrest between the two. Rebellions are cropping up. Violence is in the works. And your typical city versus city, misfits coming together type of violence storytelling with a series of fairly recognizable characters and how their relationships grow and develop to theoretically the current timeline of games. So kind of like a prequel, if you will, for a group of characters.
All I know is that there is blue-haired girl.
Yes. She is one of the two main ones.
I don't know if I have ever seen an image of the other one. Are you sure that there's two main characters, or is there one main character and somebody else?
Yeah, no, there are two main characters, the two sisters. That would be Jinx and Vi.
Okay, I've heard Jinx. I have literally never heard of Vi.
You've never heard of Vi?
Not once in my goddamn life.
Okay, well, you've definitely seen Jinx, because Jinx is the blue-haired one who has like a bazooka, wears like a bikini top, and looks absolutely insane. So basically, like most of Remington's most of Dylan's exes.
Hey, only a handful of my exes, okay?
And you've had more variety. You've had more variety.
Yeah.
Yeah, and definitely the source of some complicated feelings from a younger Shaun. And Vi is kind of like her, how to describe her? Well, she's kind of like the older sister character, but she has massive fists. Massive iron fists.
My immediate prediction.
Yeah.
Vi has to die. Otherwise, why would I have not heard of her? Vi's gonna die, and Jinx is going to have like this vengeance story where it's gonna get pissed and is gonna be like, I'm coming for you, you sons of bitches. It'll be a nice little revenge tale or whatever, and that will justify why I have literally never fucking heard of Vi.
You've never seen her before?
Not once in my life.
That's a shame. But you've definitely seen her, right?
Yes, obviously.
Okay. So we're on the same page. We're on the same page. You've seen one but never seen the other. Their stories are wildly interconnected and very important to each other. So, yeah. That's basically all I need to tell you, is that it's primarily about these two and their relationship, as well as the relationship between these cities and the world around them. And it's a love letter to fans of the series, while also being a fairly solid and artistic standalone show. Because I'll say it right now, Remington, the show is gorgeous. Like, the animation style is lovely. It's got like a almost painterly style to it.
I can't wait to
like
see how beautifully they depict Vi's death scene. You will not be able to convince me otherwise. Honestly, you can't say one way or another, but man, I feel so confident.
You're 100% confident that Vi, like, you've never heard of her because she's fucking toast.
It's the only thing that makes any sense to me.
Surely not, because League of Legends has been going on for a long ass time, and there are so many characters. It wouldn't be surprising if you. No, but even in
reference to Arcane, Arcane's the only reason I know the blue-haired one. But I ain't never seen the
other. Holy shit! Okay, Rem. All right. And for those League of Legends fans out there who are like, well, actually, you got this particular aspect of the relationship wrong, dog.
Fuck off.
Chill. Fuck off. There's a reason I left. The important thing is the show, we're going to be going into this show as a standalone series, right? Like, as two dudes who don't give a rat's ass about League of Legends as a game, primarily, we're going into this and we're going to watch it and judge it for what it is presented as such. And this is our lovely gift to everybody on Thanksgiving. It was heavily requested. And, it's the holiday, so you gotta bend the rules a little bit. You gotta occasionally give people what they want. And look, Remington is just gonna be so excited to finally watch his favorite character, Vi, bite the dust, as it were. Cool lady with the big fists. Yeah, no, can't wait for her to die.
Man, what a twist it's going
Remington
to be when it's actually Jinx who dies, and the whole story is
right.
actually about Vi, and I will be even more confused.
Well, let's just see how confused you are, Remington, because there's not really much else to say. And you are going to be watching the whole thing because it's only 9 episodes.
You're lucky I love you, you son of a bitch.
It's not for me.
You're lucky you give a good thankin, yeah.
It's what I'm known for. It's amazing I'm still single. All right, so without further ado, let's get straight into it. Let's go watch some Arcane. And we are back after watching the entirety of the first season of the hit 2021 Netflix animated series, Arcane. And Remington, one little detail I forgot to mention about the little 9 episodes we were watching, and I'm sorry. I forgot that they were double lengths.
you just forgot that bit.
Well, I did, because I'll be honest with you, Remington, when I watched it, I binged it all in one session, so I didn't notice.
This motherfucker.
But with that being said, Remington, the other thing I forgot to mention was the other main reason we're doing this show. It's because season 2 for the show was announced as well. And,
okay.
And I figured that's part of the timeliness. That and the sheer quantity of emails we got in regards to this show. Since that announcement is, well, look, we've been getting emails like at least every other day for this show because people are like, hey, like, I know it's not anime, but it's like anime adjacent and like it's really good and like I want you guys to talk about it. And so, here we are. And ever since the season 2 announcement, I've just been getting more. So the real question is, Remington, do you think this was worth all of everybody's frantic praise and desire to get it covered by us? Was it worth celebrating our Thanksgiving together by, watching an animation about League of Legends?
All right. Well, you know what? I'll just open with my thesis statement,
Okay.
Open with my thesis statement. I think it's a good show. I think the more League of Legends it is, the worse it is.
Ooh, interesting.
And something that happens throughout the show is that as we get closer to reaching
League of Legends,
as the show goes on and as it goes from being like more authorial, more editorial, more creative in its vision for all of these things, right? Because it's taking a lot of characters and it's more or less a prequel for a bunch of them.
Correct.
And the closer it gets to just getting to the characters as they exist in League of Legends, the more forced it becomes. Like there's a lot of pretty good creativity early in the series. Later in the series, there's quite a bit that's and then this happens, and without fail, I'd be like, all right, so that's some bullshit from the game, and they'd be like, yeah. Yeah, it is. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, Remington, you and I are coming from an interesting perspective where our knowledge of League of Legends lore is, let's just say the most generous way we can say it, lacking.
Yes. Oh, certainly.
Because, even though I played it for about 2 years back in the day, that was before look, I'm going to be honest, I played it for my friends. And maybe one or two pretty girls that were also playing it. I was so not invested in the lore. I was mostly dealing with trying not to rip my hair out from losing so many games.
Yes.
So, basically going into this as a completely blind viewer, which I will say is what a lot of people praise the show for, is as a completely separate thing that if you've never seen anything League of Legends, you can still get a good amount out of the show as a whole. The question is how much that rings true to you, Remington?
I would generally agree. However, I think that it does occasionally feel like if everybody's laughing at the inside joke and you're just kind of there looking around for anybody to explain to you what the fuck's going on, right? There's definitely a couple moments like that. Just that panicked look around of being like, all right, I know this is something, but what?
I think the first one that comes to mind is in either the first or second episode, where it's like, oh, what's your name? Victor. And then it cuts away and it's like, that's somebody, that's somebody important.
Yeah, it's like I'm watching a sitcom and somebody I've never seen in my goddamn life shows up and the crowd fucking goes wild. Everybody starts cheering and they get an applause ovation as they enter, and I'm like, I don't know who the fuck this is. And then it's like, oh, this is the celebrity guest star. I'm like, I don't know who the fuck that is though. Right? It's just there were definitely a couple moments. I think overall it's still watchable, but it's not a seamless experience if you don't know shit.
And before people give me crap, I will say, quite like Victor, but that's because I like mad scientist characters.
So, episode 1, we open up with a flashback to a battle, a war of sorts, where our two protagonists, they witness their parents die and are taken in by a kind brawler named Vander. And it's a nice little heartfelt opening, right? Nice and emotional. And then we cut to the intro, which will fucking uppercut you because it's just Imagine Dragons.
Yeah, no,
a song that does not really fit the vibes.
So most Imagine Dragon songs
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong, I think they're overhated, but also, I don't think this is it. And then it gets weirder later when there's a full-on animated cameo of Imagine Dragons.
Yeah.
And it's like almost an animated music video for a minute. And I'm like, why?
It's for the fans of Imagine Dragons and the fans of League, you know, that crossover.
Real strange. Like, I'm like, did they do it for free if they could get a cameo? What's the purpose? Nonetheless, we get we cut a little bit forward. Now Vander is taking care of the children, but we see the children, they're going into the rich part of the city, right?
Piltover.
Yeah, I'm not, there's so many names that I'm just not gonna say.
Well, I'm the lore guy, so I have to supply it, so...
Yeah,
like I said, I may not know the lore, but I did watch the series, and I'm usually pretty good at retaining lore information from things I've watched.
Yeah. So they're in the rich part of the city, and Vi and her sister Powder, who we will later know as Jinx, and who I only knew as Jinx.
Yep.
And then two others that are pretty good. Well, one of them has a bit of character. The other one is just exists, I guess.
I mean, he's the big guy, so.
Yeah, Milo and the other one.
Milo and the other one.
Look, the other one, they could have added some character to them, but it felt like a deliberate decision not to. Any opportunity they could have, they avoided it.
That was Clagger, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Oh, how could we forget Clagger? Oh, Clagger.
Hey, Jinx didn't forget Clagger. Though I will say, the one thing that I did notice and find amusing was, Clagger gets a little tiny doll, whereas...
Whereas, like, Milo gets this full, like
mannequin.
junk recreation.
Yeah. Like, there was a lot more effort put into Milo than Clagger, which,
they're gonna die if you couldn't tell.
Yeah.
So they do this heist on this inventor's home, basically, right? This big old heist, and it's actually pretty straightforward. They go in, start stealing a bunch of shit, and if it weren't for Powder blowing shit up, then they would have gotten away with it.
I mean, to be fair, she picked up pretty crystals, and they just so happen to be explosive, you know? It happens. It happens to the best of us. You see something shiny and blue, and you're like, ooh, for me? And then you drop it, and it blows up an apartment. You know, that's just the way it goes.
One emphasis is like, oh, Powder is a Jinx, huh? That's how she gets her name. And how she fucks up every mission she's on, which, like, I don't disagree with.
Yeah.
She's a wild liability.
Oh, 100%.
And it's simultaneously, like, one of the major themes of the show, while also I feel like being insufficiently addressed. Because it's like, man, she's a huge liability. And then you'll have some characters that, like, we should agree with be like, no, that's not true. And then she'll continue to be a huge liability for literally everybody the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, so.
Yeah, I mean, she gets called a liability quite regularly, but nobody ever does anything to try and make that less of an issue.
Because, like, all of the major protagonists or interesting antagonists, all the people we want to, like, agree with are like, no, she's not. But then it's all the, like, bland bitch antagonists that are like, she is. Like, it's clear they want us to choose a certain side, but also that side is just wrong.
Yeah, no, and I find that extra interesting because I think it's because of how wrong they are that she gets driven to the point she does, you know?
Yeah, well, and I just want the show to, like, look me in the eyes at, like, episode 7 or 8 and be like, no, that is the case. That it definitely is. Yep. It's just a weird note. Nonetheless, they escape the enforcers in the rich part of the city. They get back to the Undercity, and in the Undercity, some just street thugs accost them, and Powder dumps all of the goods, just all of them. And I'm not 100%, like, it's obvious, like, hey, fuck you, you can't get it, don't hurt me, they're gone now. or like with all these arcane artifacts, like nobody is like, oh, right there, so we should that like I can swim.
You want to swim in that water? I don't know, man.
For if you are like, hey, all right, I have put $100,000, but you're gonna have to dive into literal shit. I'm like, all right, you know the exact spot it is in that literal shit, and you're like, yeah, it's exactly right there. I'm like, okay, I'm diving. Look, I'm a broke ass bitch. I'm doing it.
It's at this point we'd like to remind you, patreon.com/outofcontext. So that Remington doesn't have to dive headfirst into shit on a regular basis. It's starting to become a problem. His girlfriend.
I mean, that's really the motto for the podcast. Remington dives into shit on a regular basis. But yeah, they just kind of are like, well, not much we can do. But I feel like there is. And maybe if they made a comment where it'd be like, oh, now it's ruined or something. I don't know. It just, they're like, what are you going to do?
The implication is you don't want to get into the shit water, Rem.
One day, I feel like that shouldn't be, they need to make it very explicit why this life-changing heist, like why this life-changing haul is just going to be left there. Get in the goddamn shit water. You're not that desperate, apparently. Like, it's so there's some disagreements and people being down on Powder about her fucking it all up. Milo especially, he's the lockpick. He's the sneaky one. He's also a bit brash, as it were. He has the potential for an interesting character, but isn't as developed enough. Better than his brother, Claggard, but not great still. Then we see Vander, the barkeep, and the whole crew's father, talk with some traders, establish the lay of the land, and truly laying down the law in his bar, right? He asks about the heists, learns how it went, is like, you gotta be safe, and they're like, but we're independent now, and he's like, be careful, darn you.
You're also 7. Like,
yeah. One thing I will say, and I think it was one of my favorite moments of the entire show, is in the first episode when they get accosted by the thugs, right? They have this, like, intense battle of just fists and casual fighting. Like, it's scrappy, it's desperate. There's not a ton. There's, like, a little bit of technique, but there's way less technique than you would expect it from a show like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no superpowered anything. It's just a bunch of just humans, and it'll show like slow motion shots of just a fist to the face or just a grapple. And I really like that opening to contrast with the more intense and crazier battles later on.
Yeah, like, I mean, the most controlled one of the lot is obviously Vi, but we later see that because she is nonstop training her hand-to-hand fisticuffs, as it were.
Yeah, Shaun always likes that fisting.
Especially not with her hex tech later. Absolutely not. Oh my god. Like that you don't come back from that. Like,
so then enforcers arrive and are asking about everything. And one negotiates with Vander. Evidently, Vander had some sort of mysterious deal. Ooh, what's going on? And the thugs who accosted them, the leader is punished until he rats on the kids. And then we see this one guy that for a while I was calling Zuko, and then his name ended up being Silco, and then I just kept it Zuko in my notes for that reason.
Is it because he has a scar over his left eye?
You're damn right it is.
Not for any other reason, just as like, that is a correlation between two characters, and there's nothing else involved, but it's good enough for me.
Hey man, I need to write something down in my notes, and if they don't give me a name immediately, that's what happens.
You get evil Zuko, which is just Zuko at the beginning of the story, but
now as an adult.
Yeah.
So and then we see some like fucked up experiments with a rat by Zuko, but here's the thing.
You're still gonna call him Zuko.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Here's the thing about that. At first I was like, oh, okay, this is some like brand new tech by him, right? But later on, it just seems to be like a thing that exists more broadly.
Yeah, essentially what it is it's super refined, magic-infused cocaine. Liquid cocaine. Heroin, baby.
Yeah, I think, and look, this is just going to be a problem because it's adapting League lore, right? It's that at one point they have the hex tech, right? This unbelievably powerful and yet dangerous, if used improperly, use of magic, right? And then they also have Shimmer, which is this unbelievably powerful yet dangerous use of purple fluid. I feel like you could have told a story with just one. I feel like you didn't need both. I feel like they don't add a ton. You can even just say like maybe like Izuku gets his hands on some hex tech bullshit, right? A gem, an unstable gem, and that's what he makes all of it out of. And because it was unstable, it's fucked, but it's still real powerful. I just think creating multiple different unstable, dangerous power sources feels a little redundant.
Well, I mean, the purple stuff is only unstable if it's in your body and you're not used to it, I guess. Also, it really fucks you up, apparently.
Sure, but but then we'll meet a guy named Victor and his entire arc, and basically I'll just cover it now because Victor's done a little bit dirty.
Victor, 100%, I agree.
Victor is this limp science boy who will help another science boy that we haven't met yet. And Victor, he is big on it, but he's dying. Could you tell by the fact he's limping? That means he's dying, kids. And so he's gonna perish unless he does some dangerous experiments with the hex tech and does some like blood sacrifice rituals to it, and it fucks him up and straight up kills a really meaningless character.
Yeah.
Named Sky. That's the only time we'll mention Sky.
Yeah.
They play it as heartfelt. Sorry, you had like one line of dialogue before you perished. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I mean, we see her like in the background in all of the other scenes with Jason and Victor, but it's like,
if anything, that should just tell you she's gonna die.
Yeah, like I need more. I need more.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like, okay, you got two dangerous, unstable power sources. Like, homie, let's revise this story. All right, let's give it a little rewrite. We don't need both.
You're gonna have to go and talk to the game studio because very clearly the one came before the other. You know.
Yes, yes. And I imagine that a lot of the things I critique, you'll be like, well, that's how it is in the game. And yeah, yeah. I feel like this show really should have just been like inspired by rather than adhered to the lore. Especially in the case where it's like you got a bunch of League of Legends heroes. What are they called?
I think they're just called Legends, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure, why not? League of Legends legends. You got all these characters. Or they might be called
champions, actually. Yeah, they're champions.
Sure.
They're champions. Yeah.
Okay. You got all these champions from League of Legends. Because this is more or less a prequel series, look, they're all gonna live. They're all gonna be fine, which is terrible because that loses a lot of stakes for a lot of characters.
But hey, Remington, you don't know out of all the people there who are champions or not.
Look, the only one I was surprised, because afterwards I learned which ones were champions. The only ones I was surprised here was a champion. Although I really should have known this from the opening of them obviously being important, was Victor. Every other champion I identified was a champion. Every other one I was like, yeah, of course. And so I wasn't worried at all about them dying in any way. Which I'm gonna say in season 2, they need to kill off a champion. Like episode 1 or 2, honestly.
Yep.
Because otherwise, you're going to just have more casualties around all of the champions, right? and you'll reach a point where it's like, all right, it's basically just the champions, but you know all of them are safe. And so it can either keep introducing side characters you know will die because they only exist to die. Or early on you say, hey, fuck it, champions can die now, and everybody's like, oh, fuck, right? Those are your options. It's such an easy and obvious choice in my mind. I don't think it's the one they'll make. It's tragic.
I mean, hey, they killed 3 kids in this series, Rem. That's impressive.
Episode 2, let's just, instead of episode by episode, let's just talk about characters.
Yeah, because, like,
whole.
Remington, if we go episode by episode, you're going to be here for a while, because there's a lot. There's
a fuck ton, this son of a bitch.
There's a lot, but, like, hey, getting rid of it all at once means that people won't be as desperately hounding me for more Arcane when the second season comes out.
All right, so we meet Jace. He's the inventor whose house got broken into, right? And we see him and this girl, Caitlin. They have a bond together. It doesn't matter. They're like, oh yeah, they're like childhood friends. And then they're like, anyway, that's neither of their bonds are each other. Like, they are more connected with everybody else, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a shame.
Because it makes it seem like they are, you know, these close childhood friends, but their interactions are very surface.
Yeah. And Jace, he's an idealist who's trying to control magic with science. How they, like, utilize science is, you know, a little bit, because it's basically, yes, we can have revolutionary advancements, just give us like 3 hours and we'll get that Nobel Prize. And it's like, oh, okay, Jesus Christ. As well as just being like, I don't know, it's magic or science or it's whatever, who cares? For a show that's like so big, especially for Jace's arc, about experimentation and science, it does not give a shit.
Yeah, no, look, dog, I can tell you right now, I mean, yeah, he's an artificer, but, like, if you just called him a wizard, you wouldn't get much of a difference in terms of story, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they don't exactly go into, like, the technology aspect of it. Like, very clearly they're making technology, but they don't exactly explain the process behind it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So initially, the city is like, no, you can't do that, magic, bad. But then, dying boy Victor shows up and is like, hey, what if I think you're onto something, kid? And so they work on it, and boom, they are onto something. Brilliant. And then it's just inventing this brand new technology. It's very welcomed in the city throughout the series, and continuing its advancements to stabilize it, make it portable, possibly able to be used for war. Ooh.
Jace's arc, as all technology is.
Yeah, Jace's arc is interesting, albeit it feels unfinished.
Hey, season 2 is coming out, so.
Not a good excuse. Not a good excuse for your tertiary main character. Look, he's third in the lineup, but he is number 3. And it's not unfinished in like an interesting, ambiguous way. Rather, it feels like in the final act, they were like, now he is a vessel for other people's issues. Which is unfortunate. He's an idealist, but he's being pulled into a lot of different directions, especially as he gains political power, and he wants to use it for good, but what does that look like? And how do you navigate the pragmatic side of city politics so that you can achieve your idealistic goals, even if that means that occasionally you will make some decisions that appear corrupt or appear lackluster, so that you can almost like sneak in your idealism through that corruption. And it's generally pretty interesting. There's like a minor note of being like, oh man, Victor is not receiving any of the credit for any of this. And then they'll like occasionally just bring that up and then shrug it off and say goodbye. And then it's especially off-putting later when Jace, who's just been this like inventor, scholar, politician, right? When he goes to being like, now I have this jacked up hammer. Let's fucking go. Let's fight. And I was like, Jesus Christ. Because he's a champion. And he's got a big fuck you hammer. And so they need to give him a big fuck you hammer.
I mean, they allude to his family history being, smiths and such.
Sure, and that's all fine.
But they didn't exactly put a whole
A
lot
family
of
that makes hammers doesn't mean, fuck you, I'm gonna make a big magic hammer and go into battle. Like, that's not what that means. That's not...
It is to Jace.
It was wildly out of place. And I'm sure that League of Legends fans are like, hell yeah, he's got his hammer now. For me, I was like, it's really dumb in context of just the show.
Yeah. I will say,
And then he kills a kid and he's like, oh no. And that's like the only time he uses the hammer is just to kill a kid.
Okay, that's a gross oversimplification. The dead kid was a complete accident.
All right, does he pull out the hammer meaningfully more than once, Shaun?
Yes, to destroy the Shimmer production factory, and he kills a bunch of roided out Shimmer guards and then accidentally kills a child.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's the only instance. The only instance is to destroy a factory where he kills a child. And so...
But the child killing wasn't the reason. It was just a side effect, as it were.
Well, and then that, child death is used for him to be like, oh, fuck, are we the baddies?
Yes, Jace. Yes, you are. Congrats.
And meanwhile, he has, Jace also has this story with his mentor, Heimerdinger, which is just this fucking thing. This little troll doll.
Okay. I mean, it's there are lots of weird races in the League universe, and he just happens to be one of them. But he does feel a little out of place when he is literally the first one we see.
Yeah. And his thing is that he's into science but scared of magic, and he's also 307 years old. But you wouldn't know it because the way that this is framed is if he's 307 years old but has, despite being a scientist interested in learning, tried to not learn shit for at least 200 of those years, if not more than that. And then his arc is Heimerdinger. He ends up in the third act. He goes to the Undercity. Apparently for the first time. He's been there since the city's founding, and this is first time being like, let's go to the broke side of the neighborhood, see what they're always complaining about. And he's like, holy shit, things are bad over here.
I mean,
yeah. Motherfucker. You've been here. You're 307 years old, and you keep hearing about this conflict, and you never even once thought to go check it out, to go look and be like, shit, yeah, it's pretty rough. What the fuck? You're awful, Heimerdinger. You fucking suck.
But he has a cute little dog thing.
Sure. Heimerdinger,
is that not enough for you?
Terrible councilman.
Well, hey, he's not a councilman anymore, so...
Good! He was trash! He befriends Echo. Echo's thing is, hey, you briefly saw them as a kid, and now they're running this kind of utopian resistance movement. Alright, they don't give Echo a lot. They don't, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. At one point, Jinx and Echo fight, and it's a dope fight. Fun art style variation throughout, which is something that can be said through the whole show. Dope art, dope animation. But
not exactly established, is it?
Yeah, Echo and Jinx, it's like, oh man. And it keeps flashing back in their fight to them as children. I don't know if in Act 1 when they were children, I don't know if they ever interacted.
They didn't.
It's so being like, hey, this fight, remember when we were kids, blah, 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 loses a bit of its luster.
Yeah, look, they needed one extra episode as them as kids. That's all I'm saying.
Oh man, I saw because I viewed the entire series, I felt okay with looking at other people's thoughts. If I only see a couple episodes, then I won't. But if I see the whole season, then I will.
Yeah.
And somebody was like, hey, "Is this the best season of animated television ever?" And I'm like, "Calm the fuck down." Look, hey, it's good. It's good. You need to chill the fuck out.
Hey, Rem, imagine that just in our emails constantly.
So then we can properly go back to our main two, Violet and Jinx, as it were, right? Violet and Jinx, and then also you'll get introduced to Kate. She doesn't matter. Don't worry about Kate. Kate has a lot of screen time, doesn't do much.
Eat your heart out, Kate mains.
If you looked at like the screen time per relevant actions done, like that ratio, Kate would have the worst one. Lots of screen time, not a lot of relevant actions done. And the only relevant actions done are as like a secondary conduit to Vi. So Vi, the older sister, Jinx, the younger one, at the end of Act 1, so at episode 3, you got the diabolical Silco, who has different ideas for how to run the Undercity, right? And him and Vander have squared off in the past. They're brothers in arms, and yet they have major disagreements. And in fact, at one point, Vander betrayed Silco, and some bullshit happened and tried to kill him. And so Silco eventually, using his evil purple fluid, he beats the shit out of a bunch of people, kidnaps Vander, which is a trap to get all of the kids to show up. The kids minus Jinx show up, and I'll try to break him out. Fight ensues. Oh man, it's nice and crazy. The show doesn't do a great job of making, like, other than that first episode fight, any goon is the weakest goon imaginable. They are pure fodder, which is always a disappointment. In this, may even make the goons scary. That's what I would promote. It gives that sense of danger. But nah. And so Vi is just taking on an army by herself. Milo is doing some lock picking. There's a nice moment where Vander's like, "You got this, kid," and it's like, oh, a nice little sweet moment. Clagger, I don't know, he's doing some bullshit. It doesn't I think he's like getting a way out, but it is so irrelevant. Eventually Jinx shows up, and she has the little magic grenades, basically. She sends one in, it explodes everything, kills all of her friends, and is basically responsible for the death of her father. And then at the end, as Vi holds their dying father in her arms, right? And is like, Jesus Christ, this is awful. Then Jinx just pops around the corner and is like, fuck yeah, I did it. And Vi's like, what the fuck? Jinx is like, I bombed the place. Mission accomplished. And Vi's like, I'm holding our dead dad in my arms right now. You did that, bitch. And Jinx is like, oh no. And then the girls are separated. A random ass enforcer who becomes way more relevant for some reason takes Vi. And you're like, oh, what's gonna happen there? Taking them like to build a force against like Silco or whatever, or to do something there? No, just to jail her, I guess. And tell them to abuse the shit out of her. That's not the vibe I got from him taking her away, but that's what happens, so that's weird. And then Silco, he takes Jinx and raises her as her new father number 3.
Hey, third time's the charm, am I right?
Yeah. And so they go their separate ways. Oh no. As Vi is imprisoned until she's not because of Kate. Don't worry about Kate. I wish there was more to Kate. I wish there was. There's not.
I mean, she's an enforcer who dreams of big justice ideals and such, and wanting to, protect those she cares about. But that's,
I guess.
as well as, solving the rampant terrorism that's going on because people keep dying. She look ACAB, but
Well, yeah, I feel like she's just like, oh man, the bad stuff needs to stop. And you're like, all right. And then she's like, and I'm gonna do something about it. It's like, what are you gonna do? Have somebody else do something about it. Okay. Like, look, in the Kate Vi partnership, which there's romantic undertones of that, that unfortunately, look, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Probably because Kate is such a nothing character, unfortunately. And Vi will always call Kate Cupcake, right? Which I'm sure it has to be like a fucking voice line in the game or some bullshit. It was not good. It was very forced. we don't see Vi talk to anybody like that. And then all of a sudden Kate's there and it's like, hey, Cupcake. And it's like, oh, what? Huh? What are you talking about? Like,
wow, that's very homophobic of you, Rem. Let those lesbians be lesbians, man.
Hey, I think Victor and Jace should have fucked, all right? I think they should have fucked on screen, full nudity.
Full nudity. Oh, wow. They didn't even have full nudity in the one other sex scene in the series.
Yeah, with cowardice, I say, cowardice. But no, it's like, hey, man, I wish I could support the lesbian romance. It's just kind of bland and poorly done.
Well, hey, we got a whole second season coming out next year to look forward to. So maybe we'll get more strong lesbian character development, you know?
And so Vi and Kate, they go to the Undercity and fuck around there, and also then go back to the rich bitch part of town and act as like kind of conduits. Jinx, working for Silco now, has completely lost her mind in a way that's visually fun, but relatively uninspired from a content point of view for the mental illness. It's like, oh, she still hears her friends and is constantly talking to them. Like, you know, it loses a little bit of grounding. It loses a little bit of that. It's no Puss in Boots. All right.
Have you seen Puss in Boots?
I guess it's like the good sequel or Last Wish. Yeah, that one. Yeah, I have. It is quite good.
Oh shit!
And its depiction of mental health quite good.
Wow, interesting. All I remember is that Twitter was going wild for the Wolf Boy. They wanted to fuck the Wolf Boy, and I was like, okay.
I don't agree with that take, but you know, nonetheless,
look, man, it was everywhere.
I think the depiction of mental illness, it's a bit shallow because it's just like, oh man, she crazy. She had a rough childhood, so she's crazy in vague ways. And you're like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it probably didn't help that Father Number 3 was a master gaslighter.
It's true. I like Father Number 3, horribly abusive, but also sincerely cares, you know, some nice nuance to the fucked up character.
Yeah, like I found it genuinely interesting when Jinx was in danger of dying, and he seemed like he wanted to do absolutely everything to keep her alive and save her, which I was like, oh wow, that usually like your stereotypical evil villain guy is just like, oh well, I'll get another one. But no, he actually seems to really care about her.
And so Jinx, her arc with her sister, unfortunately now it becomes like it in more convoluted terms, it's just Jinx being jealous of Kate and a series of general misunderstandings that lead Jinx to be self-conscious and think that her sister doesn't love her anymore or something. Their arc loses a lot of luster in the second half, unfortunately. And then it's reunited. Is it going to be Jinx or is it going to be Powder? And she ends up killing Silco, but deciding that she is Jinx. And there are lots of deals are to be made. And then you got a nice explosive cliffhanger ending. I don't know. If you're like, oh, it feels like there should be a little bit more, especially considering like the story is really like about those two. Yeah, I agree. But I'm a level with you. There's about 4, maybe 5 episodes of substance for the sisters. The first 3, and then you squish the rest into like 1 or 2. It's the pacing's a bit off. The pacing leaves a little bit to be desired, perhaps. And there's still some like fun moments. But I think that Jinx is almost a really good character. She's not an actively bad character, but I think there needs to be some script doctoring.
You won't hear any arguments with me on that front, boss. Like, look, all I know is back in, oh god, when did she come out in League? Was it 2014? I can't remember. 2015 maybe. Look, all I remember is when I saw her promo art and all that stuff. I was like, that's a mistake I would make, isn't it? And
It very
Spoiler.
much gives Manic Pixie Dream Girl, but like the crazy and violent kind. It's your Harley Quinns. It's in that vein.
Oh, hey, dog. When Jinx came out, the cosplay community went book wild, and you could not go 5 feet without seeing a Jinx cosplayer. Right?
I'm sure.
Yep. Which, hey, was not complaining. was not complaining because, one, there were some very funny, awesome iterations of the cosplay, and two, look, I said that it was a mistake I would make. It's a mistake I have made in the past, so here we are, boss.
See, and I talked at length about how I had never seen Vi a single time, which is still true. But she is certainly the more interesting character. I think her execution is less interesting than Jinx's, but the character is better. It's a nice weird case. Shove them together and you have an amazing character. Separately, you have two pretty good characters. It's an interesting show. It's a weird show. It does a lot amazingly, and then other stuff, well, and I do think it is just very limited in the fact that it needs to stay true to League and that it's a prequel. I think a better show would have been a less successful but better show would have just been brand new characters in the League world, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, you get some of those, but most of them have died, unfortunately.
Yeah, because they're the only ones that can, and the show knows that if it wants to tell the story like it wants to tell, there needs to be death. You also have like this random mad scientist who I was like, okay, that has to be a character because they're like really emphasizing how relevant he is, but he's not. And there were just multiple moments like that where it's just like it's jarring, and it's not a completely fluid experience. If they had just gone in on completely original characters, have a few like champion cameos here and there, all right? Like, I get it. Maybe even one or two of them is like tertiary character, right? You keep Heimerdinger in his role, all right? That's fine.
Yep.
That's fine.
You may hate him, but he serves
perhaps
his
change his
purpose.
character a little bit, but like in that role that he plays, that's a-okay. To be like all of the main characters, don't worry, they're gonna be a-okay, and also occasionally we'll have to force some whack ass shit in there. Like, that was always frustrating. It's still a good show. But I'm gonna give it like a 7 out of 10 probably, which is very good. But it was like usually an 8 out of 10, sometimes a 9 out of 10, but with a lot of like 4 to 5 out of 10 moments.
Oof. I think that's probably the most fair assessment you could have given the show, like, especially considering the show, while it stands pretty well on its own, it clearly wasn't made for us, Rem. Like,
oh, certainly.
It's very clear that they're like, hey, let's take the characters and lore of this beloved game, because despite what we say, it is quite a beloved game, and bring it to life, which, I am here for because I like complex lore and fantastical worlds with interesting champions and characters and whatnot, and telling stories about them and the world they're in is great. But I think you hit the nail on the head there, bud. Like, the biggest issue here is at what point do they diverge from they assume happened before the events of the game, which I'm going to be honest with you, Remington, I could not tell you the exact like story, location, timeline, or implications of the game itself. I know there's a lot of shit that needs to happen to get to where to their champions' basic descriptions in their bios on the site, in comparison to where they are now. But I also know for a fact that unless they get to those points quickly, they're not going to be able to tell new stories. And I'll be honest, man, the only thing I can remember from the story is like, shit, there's some bad stuff going around, and you gotta go and you gotta break the other person's big crystal. And I'm like, that doesn't exactly leave much room for, story. So I think you're right. I think they need to just catch up to what the bios say as quickly as possible, and then just tell a whole ass new story involving these characters, and actually, provide some linear narrative to this world because, my God.
Also, I disagree. Obviously, there was going to be a season 2. I disagree. I think the ending of season 1, it's the good kind of cliffhanger where you should just leave it there. It's indicative of the cycles of violence, of how difficult attempts at peace and compromise can be, levels of abuse, both personally and then like systemically, looking at levels of like class division, all of this stuff, right? It's like, yeah, just keep it a nice little ambiguous end. But unfortunately, I don't have high hopes for what's to come, at least from my own standards.
Yeah.
I think that it will likely, it'll likely become less interesting for me in season 2, unfortunately. I could be wrong. That's what I suspect.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from completely. I myself, I despite all of its problems, I still quite enjoyed the show myself as well. And I'm actually looking forward to season 2 because, I like weird, complicated worlds with lore that pre-exists, and I'm curious to see what they do with it because I think season 1 of Arcane is a good step, but I think it's just the first step before they're allowed to make any more interesting choices.
Here's what I say: here's how I would do a season 2. I would turn it into pure anthology. All right, each season you take a different batch of characters. All right. And in a different part of the world, perhaps at a different time, and you focus on that instead. Then you get to explore all of your fun little champions, right? But you don't need to keep beating things into the dirt.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I mean, we have a full year until season 2 comes out, Remington. Like, literally all they did was say, hey, November 2024, and people went fucking nuts. And I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah, let's go from there. Oh, apparently Heimerdinger is a champion as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean apparently?
Look, I didn't bother looking up
that
all the champions.
Fucker walked in and I was like, that is all. That one I had no doubt about from the moment I laid eyes on him. Why the fuck would they include this little fucking thing if he wasn't a champion?
Because, Remington, there are more than one of those little fuzzy guys in the game. And I was like, oh, look, nice. They had one for world building. And like I said, Rem, do you know how many fucking champions there are in League of Legends now?
1 billion.
166.
What the fuck? Why?
Yeah. It's a game that came out back in like 2011 or 2012, and they just have not stopped. So, forgive me for not knowing every single hero. I looked at him and I was like, he looks a bit like Teemo. Because I think that was the other little furry guy that I distinctly remember. Could Heimerdinger have been there from the beginning? 100%. Do I remember that fact? Of course not. Of fucking course not. You know who I played in League, Rem? I played Ashe, Jinx, and I think Vi. So, look, I
don't know who the hell Ashe is, but is she is she a woman with sexy art?
I don't like
you horny boy!
I don't like the tone you're taking.
You horn dog!
That's not the reason. The reason
I see why. Oh, of course. You're like, I really like their play styles.
Of course.
Of course, bud.
First of all, she was the tutorial character, right? And second of all, she was an archer with an ice bow, and I thought that was cool.
Look, we all understand why you played League. We all get it. Some people have different reasons than others. We know yours.
Look. I'm gonna send you a picture of the art, and I think you're overemphasizing things. I'm just saying.
You horny bitch.
She has a bow made of ice. How is that not the coolest thing?
But why, if she's in the tundra, if she's in these snowy ass mountains, why does she have hardly any clothes on?
Rem, there are some questions that we shouldn't ask.
Why does she basically have a mini skirt and thigh highs? Why? That's not Blizzard attire. You need something better for that.
Looking at her champion page, I'm assuming it's because she doesn't really feel cold, because she's attuned to a magical bow of true ice, apparently. Look, man, if we start dissecting the various individual lores of each character, eventually we're going to get to a point where none of it makes sense. So let's not focus on those details. Just know that those are the 3 characters I think I played. It depends on when Vi came out, because I think Vi came out after Jinx, if I'm not mistaken. But I feel like I liked the idea of a strong woman punching the shit out of people. I mean, I played a lot of Doomfist in my Overwatch days, so you know.
Whatever you need to say to justify it. I don't think you're convincing a single person.
I'm not trying to convince anybody. I'm just being honest.
Oh, sure.
I mean, I played other characters too. Let me. Oh, crap, what characters are there?
As he desperately looks for any he might have played that aren't sexy woman.
They weren't all hot characters.
Sure.
Well, hot lady characters at least. I don't know. I feel like Vlad could do all right. The point is, Remington. The point is, I don't know enough about the lore to comment. All I know is that, hey, when season 2 comes out, if it's a good experience, I'm going to be satisfied. I'm probably going to watch it now. I put it off because of my predisposition for League in general. But, you know, hey, look, I want to see the battle lesbians do well. That's what I want to see. So that's what I'm going to look forward to. And I think, you know, there's potential there because clearly there's a lot of love and heart put into this production as a whole.
Yeah.
You have to admit that. Like, yeah, there's a lot of issues with the writing itself, but like the art and direction of the animation itself,
oh, certainly.
Gorgeous. But with that in mind, Remington, we obviously not an anime, so can't really give you a mal score for it. But if you had to guess, I don't know, the IMDb rating, what do you think it would be?
Oh, Jesus Christ! It's
yeah, you gotta recalibrate for this one because like you don't got just weebs rating it. You also got normal ass people too who stumbled upon it on Netflix and was like, ooh, what's this thing with the blue and pink hair? Let's have a look.
Here's the thing. I think you got a bunch of weebs who will always rate it highly. You got a bunch of League of Legends homies who will rate it very highly. And then I think the normies who ended up watching it are normies who have heard from one of the former 2 camps that they need to watch it. Don't worry that it's League, it's fine.
I mean, Lord knows I've gotten that exact
and so it comes with like high recommendations. And so it's like the normies, even they have been specifically selected. And so I think it's going to be like around a 9, 8.8 perhaps. I think all the categories of people, I think only people who will really like it will watch this.
Yeah. Like, I feel like it's one of those shows that if you look at the cover, you can be like, oh yeah, I'm probably going to enjoy that show.
Yeah.
Like, it's very indicative of, you see it and you're like, yeah, I could probably watch that and enjoy it. Because, let's be honest, gorgeous. It's lovely. It's pretty. It's stylistic. It's got powerful women, you know?
Oh, Shaun.
Don't look at me that way. I know we don't have our cams on right now, but I can tell you're giving me a look.
Hey, if you are powerful women and you want to hit Shaun up.
Powerful women, plural. Are you trying to get me?
Just send an email on to animaticcontext@gmail.com saying Shaun's new mommy. That should be the subject line. We're taking applications, and I'll be honest, we'll probably accept just about any one of them.
Okay, we cannot use our fucking podcast to help my dating life, Remington. I don't need those kinds of emails.
All right, so just animaticcontext@gmail.com.
Oh my god. I'm just gonna stop talking there because the more ideas they get of things to send us, the less it's gonna be. Less good it's gonna be for me. So Rem, the IMDb rating for Arcane, about 250,000 people left reviews for it. And the currently on IMDb with those 250,000 reviews, it is sitting nice and pretty at exactly 9.0. And the breakdown of this is fascinating because unlike Mal, where you get weirdly a more even split, on IMDb, 53.6% of the ratings are 10 out of 10.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, followed by another 25% that are 9 out of 10. And then it quickly drops off to 12, then 4, and then only 1.8% of the people gave it a 1 out of 10. And I feel like the people who voted 1 out of 10 are either salty bitches or are doing everything they can to bring down the average because it's not a 1 out of 10 show, I think, in anybody's book. But Yeah, no, like, the breakdown of this show isn't exactly balanced. Because I think I'm more with you. I think it's more like a 7 to 7.5 type of show for me. I'm probably on the higher end of the spectrum than you are, but that's just because, you know me. I like my nerdy shit.
Yep.
And I can't help it.
Fucking
And
dweeb.
Look. You may not agree with the two unstable magical sources being present, but I like them because I like unstable magic sources.
I think it could be good.
Yeah.
They just would need to have done more to like
agree.
differentiate them.
I agree, but I still enjoy them because, look, man, you know what I like to play? I like to play wizards, and there's nothing I like more than having weird, magical, arcane things that will potentially fuck things up, but you just gotta poke it to find out, you know? You just gotta see. You gotta find out. So, more weird magical substances, please. I enjoy them. But with that in mind, I guess the final question I need to ask you for this very long episode, and I'm sorry, Dylan, in advance, but any chance you'd want to come back and watch season 2 of Arcane with me, Rem?
Well, I had a good time with season 1. Maybe if I hear ridiculously amazing things about it, I'll be swayed. I am not interested right now at all in a season 2. It doesn't capture me. I feel like season 1 is enough. I don't think that'll change, but who knows?
I mean, I got some bad news for you, Rem. You are going to be hearing super high quality, amazing things. Over half of the people gave this a 10 out of 10 on IMDb.
No, but like from people I respect.
So if we get Dylan to watch it, and
I think Dylan would really vibe with it.
Oh yeah, probably. Though the first time Jinx shows up on screen, he's gonna be like, "Yeah, nope, been there."
Yeah.
Because I mean, let's be honest, all three of us have.
Oh yeah.
No regrets. Anyways, I think with that in mind, thank you all so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. If you enjoy us occasionally breaking the mold to watch an anime adjacent thing, then please head on over to wherever you get your podcast and leave us a review. They mean the world to us, and we do read every single one. And if that is not enough for you, you can head on over to twitch.tv/animeoutofcontext, where you can watch myself, Dylan, and Remington occasionally play video games very poorly. And if that is still not enough for you can head on over to patreon.com/animeoutofcontext, where you gain access to all kinds of lovely bonus material, including the opportunity to be thanked live on the podcast. So, Rem, who are we thanking this week?
Well, as always, we would like to send our regards to all of our bland bitch protagonists, as well as our magical girls, who we really appreciate. But moving on, we get to the yandere waifus, who, just insert anything that Jinx did this whole fucking show did. And on that list...
I mean, to be fair, they'll probably just dress up as Jinx. I mean, that's a pretty easy thing to do.
There you go. We have, my name is First Now, bitch. Oops, sorry, I was just overly excited. You're not a bitch, please don't hurt me. Zombie Stomp, Zekule, Xanax, Zayden, your weekly reminder to wash your pits, Shaun. Yandere Neko, why Shaun? When is the Force Fairy 5 revisit? Walk me up gently. Vinland Saga is Peakland Saga. Rem, please watch it. Utah #1, Unknown Person, Unhinged Prax. Totally God's Angel, Titan CNH. Thopternaut King, Ruler Vornai. The Villain Behind Glasses wants Welcome Cheetase revisit. The Susanator. The Danish Viking will conquer the world with Roranoa Zoro as my navigator. The Capybara have no words to say this week. That guy that makes Rem say cunt at least once a week. Thanks for being the best thing to listen to while working out. Y'all's mostly agreeable takes distract me just enough. Turban, Tattooed Weeb, Super Zoo, Strawberry Milkshake. Sticking out your gat for the Rizzlers. You're so skibbity. You're so Phantom Tax. One of those I don't understand.
Yeah, I got most of that, I think. It's just the last part that I'm a little confused on.
Yeah, well let's learn a little, shall we?
Let's learn slang.
Specifically, I just need to understand Phantom Tax.
Same. I got the other ones.
It's when you steal people's food.
Don't do that. That's stupid.
Or someone who wants to yoink your food.
What's the etymology on that? Do we have time for
there's
that?
a YouTuber named Phantom that has a joke where he steals people's food.
That's not really a joke.
Stacy's mom, Snaky Pie, Silent Secondary, Shoujo Addict who doesn't need help, just more manga to read and anime to watch, Shanichi, please for the love of God, don't fuck the pink gorilla, Seth Senju, Seraphim the Shark plushie, Sugoi Takai, that's what she said, Ross Palmer, Rhiannon Williams, RGB98, Rem uses the drums of liberation to free all weebs from bad anime, Rem puts the bara in capybara. See, if it, anything, you should be saying capybara ara. Rem. That's Shaun's new catchphrase.
Just the word dumb?
No, yeah, but just for you, no, capybara ara.
Capybara, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, there you go. Rem loves the big hole. Rem doesn't completely hate my favorite shows. Quickly to the Chef no Musco tier, we have Professor Fox, pro tips out of context. If you want to prevent Rem from looking like a bird hater, join the Aviary Coup Evangelion for 2023. I see it begins. Praise Haruhiism. Have you heard of our Lord and Savior Haruhi? Paco El Musico, other McNutt. Onara Goro is the best episode so far. Oh no, Big Brother stretched my anus. Oops. Now we move on to the Boy Wizard tier where everybody is getting ahead. We're not there yet, guys. No Waifu, No Laifu. 907. Nice Legs, Daisy Dukes makes man go do. Neon Angel, Huvo. Misaka made teriyaki for Thanksgiving, says Misaka, while glossing over that 3 people choked on the mochi stuffing. Makeka 7 Hierto. Murmurcorn Fire. Mechazap, making fake mal account so I can rate Force Fairy 5, 10 out of 10. Macaroni Uchiza, love AOT and like the pod after 6 months of focused listening. Looking for a new stepsister to fuck. Link Jokerl, Liam Dunn, Kip and Side demand your seeds as tribute. Excuse me? King Rich Rock, Cassidy, Jax, Jamhands. I was and have been successful in trying not to starve on my own, but I bashed my head on overhead equipment at work. I love Dungeons and Daddies. I'm here for the haunted house stories. Hunter Tane. Hey Shaun, I got a text just now. It says durability test level 1 begin. Hey Remington, Brendan's grandma misses you. Call her, she yearns for your secret sauce. Goggle McGiggle fuck. Glenn Michael Dolan. Farmer Weeb wants Patreons to know it's Christmas time for Eva, so say Angel. Fantide, F-Bomb, Erica McCorkle, Elborn Queno, doo-doo-doo-doo. Daniel Riot, Daddy Rem, tell me a bedtime story. Cryptid MILF, Cryptkiller Steve, Countrified Goth here to remind you that you just lost the game. Coming together like Voltron, except I'm making a dodeca fuck. Chris Wood, Cheese Monkey, Cat girls are best girls, so give me them cute little paws. Carl Steff, Captain Thunderpants, Brockhart for Geodudes, it's going to be a very Eva Christmas. Big Blue Bear Boy, Big Tony Bear Trap, Bird Bee Flem, RMC, Anonymous Gamer, Anime Out of Context ruined my happy sugar life, and every day that Raven comes to visit. Amazing Muffin, AJ Tunnel's fool that was no Skittle but an M&M in disguise, fucking amateur. Aisha Gudgy, after today I think some cannibalism would be good for all of us. And Aaron Hegland. Now we move on to the Boy Wizard tier.
I like how they're gaslighting you into trying to start the Boy Wizard tier early.
Yeah, yes, it happens so much. But now, here we are. Everybody is going to get their own champion from League. What does that mean?
Fucking easiest thing to do.
Oh, truly. I will say, anybody who plays League, this has to be your new main, so Godspeed, motherfucker.
And if you don't, you gotta download it and try it. Otherwise, how are you gonna know?
Them's the rules. What does Daddy Rem say to Mommy Shaun? You get Gangplank.
I played Gangplank. I remember Gangplank.
Vincent
He's
Calabrese.
a big pirate, and he had a cannon.
You get Scion. The Drew is tired. She is EP. You get Swain. That guy who chuckles, or that guy who fucks. You get Akshan. Ryan loves Milena. You get Ramus. Rowdy-O, you are going to get Darius. Roscop, you are going to get Trindamere. Rent a Girlfriend to Revisit Now or make Rem watch some more Sword Art Online. You are going to get Elise. Please consider the Magical Girl musical of Healer Girl. I want to know Rem's opinion. You get Draven. PL Mare, you stink. You get Pantheon. Nuh-uh, Spy, you get the Big Ol'. Nightshade Blade, you are going to get LeBlanc. Monogatari has everything. I skipped part 2 on previous episodes, so I have no idea what the fart you want. You are gonna get Callista. Mike got his Overlord review. You get Quinn. Miguel DeLeon, you are going to get Oriana. Latino has muscle rheumatism at 21. No more boxing training, I guess. You are going to get Vel'Koz. Kugor, you are going to get Kled. Crimson Reapers, just because of the scythes, you are going to get Seraphim. Cassie, you get Jin Zhao. Carver 271, you are going to get Timo. Cameron Coates, you get Morgana. Bloodcell, not the bitch boy white ones, you get Tristana. Beethoven 1201, you get Bard. Audience member is paying the cost to reveal their modifier, Epic Sylph 7. You get Varys. Anonymous, you are going to get Warwick. Animated Z, you get Kali. Allfather awaits the flight to Germany. You are going to get Victor. Hey, it's from the show. We got one. Name written in Japanese, so I don't know how to pronounce it. you are going to get Ziggs. And second to none, you are going to get Rengar. Now we move on to the inappropriate Joey Wheeler tier, where Shaun as Joey Wheeler will commentate your performance as if it were an esport, and then I will tell you what he's commentating on about you.
Oh, fuck. Okay. All right, here we go.
First, we start with, I want Shaun to dick me down so hard my ancestors end up with phantom pains.
Oh my god. Oh right, gotta do the thing. I was thrown off. Yeah, alright. Oh man, look at them go. They are getting really deep into the jungle there. Is this greedy? Are they going to take out the mid-jungle boss, or are they going to lead the other team into trying to take it on when they are unprepared? It could go either way, folks.
This is what happens when you lead the Thornberries on an expedition. Next we got my dear old mum.
Ooh, that was a clutch misplay on the enemy's part, and they are not letting them forget it. They are pushing very hard down top lane and about to take out their Arcane turret.
My mom just killed a nerd. In cold blood. Last but not least, we got 4 months and counting.
Let's see. God, trying to remember all of my esports lingo is a fucking killing me. It seems like they're going with a rushdown strategy rather than a more patient build up and move forward procedure. Currently, the enemy team is letting it happen, which is not ideal in this situation. What they need to do to counter this is to really rush in themselves, take out some key opponents, and then leave the encounter to recuperate. You can't let them build up that many trash mobs.
You having sex at a landfill. Thank you all for tuning in. If you want to reach out, whether it's for a comment, question, feedback, or recommendation, you can tweet us at AnimeConPod on Twitter, or send an email over on to animeoutofcontext@gmail.com.
Can't help but notice I feel like I put a little more effort into mine than you did.
Hey, fuck you, bud.
With that in mind, thank you all so much for tuning in. We love you all very, very much. Happy Thanksgiving, and as always, don't fuck your sister.
Do-do-do-do, do-do-do. I just want Kirito to, look me in the eyes at, episode 7 or 8 and fuck me.
But the child killing wasn't the reason. It was just a side effect, as it were. She is non-stop fisting me. Ah, shit, there's some bad stuff going around, and you gotta go, and you gotta break the other person's big penis.
I bombed the child. Mission accomplished.
You know what I like to play? I like to play with myself.
You horn dog! You horny boy!
Capybara, alright.
You horny bitch.